I chose to write this book because this is the book I needed when I was teaching. And what I mean by that is there were so many things that were happening that I couldn't understand with myself, with children. And those things were the types of trauma responses that they were having and that I was having. I think this book can benefit readers by supporting them to recognize the ways that we can miss the trauma that students are experiencing. This book could also help people who have this perception of trauma being something that children bring with them to school, that children experience outside of school. So a key concept that I developed through my years of lived experience, teaching and research are the ways that trauma manifests in students and how we can sometimes miss that trauma. So one of the concepts that I really bring up are how educators sometimes can punish students for the trauma that they're experiencing because of the way it appears. And some examples of that are, we know the fight and flight, right? Fight and flight responses are something that a lot of people are familiar with as it relates to trauma. What that means is that when the prefrontal cortex of someone's brain is activated and they go into survival mode, then in that survival mode, they can choose to fight, and that comes off as some form of aggression and anger and confrontation, or they can choose flight, which comes across as a runner, right? Or someone who disappears without a trace. And oftentimes what happens is we don't even realize what it is that really added that pressure to the wound to cause that response in students, in ourselves. So there's a lot of research about trauma responsive schools, trauma informed practice, trauma sensitive schools. And so what's distinct about trauma responsive pedagogy is that this is how we teach for healing and transformation. And it's not just healing and transformation of students. It's healing and transformation of ourselves alongside our students. So that's what distinguishes trauma responsive pedagogy from all of the other ones. We're engaging in a parallel process. And it's with the idea that every single educator who enters this profession does so to heal their own inner child. In section 1 of the book, we're able to see the ways that we can cause trauma, essentially, and how schools can be a place that causes trauma. I vulnerably share how I learned about this work in a very trial and error process, and how by being equipped with the necessary research and education, I'm able to really think about and change my practice. In section 2, Dr. Courtney Baker provides the initial research around trauma-informed practice and how that translates to schools, and gives a great deal of research for the work. And in section 3, here's where I lay out the process for becoming a trauma responsive pedagogue. There are also lessons for how to engage in trauma responsive work in the classroom. There's guidance for how to hold space for students and invite them to orient to the classroom, not just intellectually by sharing their thoughts and what's on their mind, but also emotionally by sharing what's on their heart and engaging relationally by thinking about what they want to do differently now that they are aware of the traumas that they are experiencing, and how they want to live differently so that they're not just victims of their past, but they can be the origins of their future.